Hello and welcome to the Metaverse Insider. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Josh and I'll be interviewing you. To kickstart our conversation, can you please tell us what is DeepSquare?
DeepSquare is all about decentralized compute, decentralized cloud, done for all of the right reasons, really to provide an alternative, to provide transparency, fair pricing, lots of other things. We've got a particular focus on sustainability, but also on high performance computing, which is some of the hungriest compute out there today.
Thank you. So, concerning this, how does DeepSquare differ from other high computing services currently out there in the industry?
I let you do the first ones, no? And then I
Thanks, Flo. Thank you. Yeah. With DeepSquare, normally in cloud computing and also in high performance computing, you have very centralized organizations. So people like an AWS, like a Google Compute, like Microsoft Azure, providing a service. And even though they have a distributed network, it's of course a central organization. And it can be decided in the blink of an eye and without any fault of your own that you can no longer run your business on something, or of course, you find that it's not transparent or you're locked into a particular experience. And this is indeed where we differ in all of those points. So making sure that indeed it is a true decentralized, community-owned project where you decide as an end customer how you want to participate and on what terms, knowing that you have the ability to move, the ability to change, and also knowing that all of the transactions are very transparent. So when you're paying for a particular thing to be done, you can track exactly where it was done, how long it took, and how much it cost, etc. There are a few other differences as well. Part of it has to do with the fact that we have sustainability built in from the core of the project. So everything done with sustainability in mind. And in fact, two of our sites have heat capture and reuse already in place where we're heating homes and offices and universities. So again, that's another key differentiator.
Thank you. That's very interesting. There's a lot of discussion currently on the topic of decentralization and what truly makes something decentralized. And it is an important aspect of this new age of technology, and there's no denying that. So, concerning DeepSquare, though, how is it truly decentralized regarding the fact of it being governed by a community more so than a particular governing body?
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, we have to say that we have a path to decentralization, and that is indeed the goal. But there is a custodial board at the moment helping to make decisions in the earlier stages. Of course, we also present decisions to our 380 strong community today. We've already held votes and we've already, we very much value the opinion, of course, of the community. So as we progress and over the next years, we will indeed hand over all of the keys, etc., to the community. But you talk about what makes something decentralized. So decentralized, of course, means that it's not all owned and run by one party. So in our case, we talk about the DeepSquare grid, which is the network. So the actual compute resources and other things. And for instance, we're in different sites. But also we run on different clouds today, and we invite third parties and others to come and join this grid. And bit by bit, this will become more decentralized. Now, we have a few other technical decentralized components. Of course, we have one of the standard roles of validators that are securing the network, but we also have something quite unique, which is what we refer to as a meta scheduler. And a meta scheduler is a decentralized piece which matches the end customer needs with infrastructure providers or with service providers to make sure that decisions are being made in a decentralized fashion for the good of the entire ecosystem, really ensuring also then that everything is transparently recorded as well.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting. It's evidently a very important part of where we're currently at in the industry. I'm very excited to see where it goes. So, could you please tell us a bit about the technologies that DeepSquare are developing and what they currently do?
Yeah, so I think that Dee already mentioned some of them, but I will basically go through that by starting from the grid side. So at the grid level, when somebody wants to join us, he needs to run a specific software, and this software allows him to manage his own cluster in a very easy way. And then he basically is able with that software to connect with something we call a supervisor, which basically listens to the blockchain events to decide and then to take the job that has been scheduled to him. And then all the information is stored in a blockchain, which allows us to be completely transparent and to be able basically to give security on trust on what we are writing and on the information that are there. And this blockchain is currently running as an Avalanche subnet. So we decided, because when you develop your blockchain, you need to have a certain numbers of validators to ensure that your consensus is robust. And I think that now we have very strong L1 layer, as we call them, that have good level of decentralization, and Avalanche is one of them. If we look at the Nakamoto coefficient, it's I think above 1,000. So it means that you need 1,000 different individuals to collude in order to be able to put this network down. So I think this is a very good and reassuring number. They are also focused on sustainability. They have something very efficient. And then when you come, you basically develop your subnet and you inherit from this consensus layer from the main net, so that you basically inherit this security aspect while still being able to have your own blockchain with its own logic and also its own transaction, meaning that you can scale the transaction without putting the blockchain down. And when you look at the play-to-earn games last year that were doing their transaction on L1 layers, this was horrible, and the transaction was exploding. So I think we need this kind of solution in order to scale things, and we decided to go through Avalanche for that. And then we have this other component that Dee mentioned, which is also very important for us, is this meta scheduling. Is the thing listening for new job requests and then deciding where the job needs to go. And there will be a lot of innovation that will go into this piece of software, where we will take advantage of decentralization and sustainability to give the freedom of choice also to the user to decide what type of workloads he wants to run, but also where and how he wants to run them. If he wants to restrain himself for a specific jurisdiction, for example, he will be able to do so.
Thank you very much. That's very fascinating to hear about the technologies that you're currently developing, especially the Avalanche subnet. Really like that. So, could you please just tell us a bit more about why sustainability matters so much to DeepSquare?
Very important. It's actually the point which brought the founders of DeepSquare together in the first place. Really from the get-go, we were involved in designing these blueprint clusters, which we've deployed two of ourselves, to show how it can be done sustainably, really using bleeding edge technologies which are out there for the cooling and the capture of heat and the heat reuse, etc. Also being sure that the server design itself means that you're using less plastics and less metals, and careful about the sourcing, or as careful as is possible today. And really having these, as I said, as a blueprint for others to be able to use.
Thank you very much. It's really refreshing to hear this new outlook on sustainability. There aren't many companies that follow this ethos, and it's highly respectable for you guys to be pursuing a new way to go about things, to say the least. And, as most people know this, without sustainability, there is no future. So, concerning your high-performance computing and cloud decentralization, how does this benefit the consumers?
Particularly when we think about metaverse gaming, other types of experience which really rely on low latency, so very fast response, etc. It's very important that they're as close as possible to the end consumer. There are other instances where it is simply it has to do with the preference of jurisdiction and lots of other things. So you feel, you have it under control. You as the end user, you decide on your terms. But mainly, if we talk about those types of workloads, metaverse and gaming.
Would you say that those two are the most important aspects for DeepSquare, most prolific per se, and are they what you're going to be focusing on in the next few years to come?
So we're like Florin comes from an AI background. He's
Mhm.
a data scientist, along with a lot of other team members. And AI is, of course, on the rise, and the need for the high performance computing for training deep learning models, etc. So that's a particular focus of ours, alongside render streaming. So render streaming is a very interesting workload because it changes the need to have a very powerful laptop, for instance, like a gaming laptop or PC, where everything is then done server side. So it means that you can connect with the simple browser and interact with quite complex worlds, and it will provide that very rich experience that we really expect from the type of interaction we've been promised with Metaverse, etc.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's a very important aspect for many individuals. They don't have access to high computing power and therefore the ability to run certain software. So, effectively giving people the ability to do this without the necessary equipment, which is, well, it's phenomenal. So, what can we expect from DeepSquare in the next 6 months or so?
We are super busy at the moment building internally, adding to the functionality which is needed by customers that we're onboarding. We have a lot of work to do on the meta scheduler, as Florin alluded to. Today, we have some fairly simple algorithms where we are indeed adding some artificial intelligence in order for it to be able to intelligently match those end customer needs with the actual physical hardware. But we're also working on the other components, the ability for a third party to join the grid completely in a trustless fashion. So today we have a couple of steps that they have to go through. And then, so that's a lot of work. But really, again, it's onboarding customers, learning from those customers to add to the functionality that they need in order to provide them with the best possible experience.
Thank you. And just to elaborate on that, where do you expect DeepSquare to be within the next 5 to 10 years? I know that's a drastic time difference, but what can you give us?
Yeah, I mean, we want DeepSquare to have thousands of clusters, so thousands of locations around the world. And indeed to start reaching that decentralized governance as well in that regard, where it indeed DeepSquare is where the end customer wants to go rather than to one of the centralized players, realizing all the benefits that they have. But we also want DeepSquare to be a bit of a beacon for indeed decentralization, where other parties, even with existing clouds, want to come and join because of all of the values and the ideology that is behind it. And I would also invite Florin, as our head of blockchain and also co-founder, to maybe comment on that too, Flo.
Yeah, I think I want to comment on the two last one. Maybe to also say that we really want to have a production environment, because we are able now on our testnet to basically do workloads, launch workloads through a Web3 interaction with a MetaMask wallet. You can launch your virtual world, and then you get another URL. You can share it with your friends. We could do that now. We would be able to see each other in this simple virtual world we just developed to showcase. So it's becoming real, and now we are on a test net, so all the financial flows are fake. So we want to basically be able to onboard people that we are onboarding now, but not with free credits and fake credits, with a real value. And that's why we will go live most probably in Q1 with the mainnet next year. And how all this looks like in the next 5 years, I think the plan is really to try to create this interoperability layer, so that when you need to talk about compute and you need to submit compute requests for anything, then that you could go through this interoperability layer, and that we could have an ecosystem where many partners would participate. And I think we are not closed. It's not that we don't want to have centralized companies to join. It's not the point. I think the point is that we want to work together to create something big and not fight against each other on simple and small details. And I think that's the vision we have. That's why this is a non-profit organization doing this whole project. And we invite all the people that have great ideas to come and build their startup with us.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting. I really appreciate your time with us today. You guys are very prolific and incredibly interesting people to talk to. I'm very looking forward to see how your trajectory pans out, and it is looking ever positive. Once again, thank you for joining us today at the Metaverse Insider. It's been an absolute pleasure.